Morning, everyone.
Morning, Rabbi.
We're learning Mishnah Sotah, Parak Zayin, Chapter 7, Mishnah Zayin, Mishnah 7. So one of the things mentioned that you have to do in Lashon Kodesh, the Hebrew language, are the blessings of the Kohen Gadol. Now, the blessing of the Kohen Gadol took place after, on Yom Kippur, after the finished doing the special service of Yom Kippur, after all the service of Yom Kippur was done, then he would now do what's called the blessings of the Kohen Gadol. And the Mishnah said they have to be done in Hebrew. How do we know? That's not going to be a discussion of the Mishnah about how do we know. The Mishnah is going to discuss the procedure. But the explanation given here in the notes as to how we know is from the Tiferes Yisrael. Tiferes Yisrael explains that since these statements were made in such a holy setting by the Kohen Gadol in the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Kippur, it is only fitting that they be made in the holy language. So there's no actual source from the Torah they have to be that way. The truth is that what the Kohen Gadol is doing now, I haven't thought about this before, but these blessings of the Kohen Gadol, the Torah doesn't say he has to do it. This was something that was done. The Torah doesn't say to do it. So it would only make sense that there should be, it shouldn't have a source in the Torah. It's not a Torah obligation as far as I understand. But even so, to be able to, you need a reason to say why it should be in the Hebrew language, and the answer the Tiferes Yisrael gives is because of the whole, setting that was where it was, when and where it was taking place. It was only befitting it would be done in Lashon Kodesh in the Holy Tongue. All right. So Birchas Kohen Gadol Keitzad, the blessing of the Kohen Gadol, how were they done? Now, next to the Beis Hamikdash, there was a shul. And it was a place where, especially by the second Beis Hamikdash, there already was established davening, and there was a shul next to the Beis Hamikdash. And therefore, it says like this. Now, the Kohen Gadol was going to read from a Sefer Torah. Where did the Torah come from? Is there a Sefer Torah sitting in the Beis Hamikdash somewhere? So the Mishnah says, Chazan HaKnesses noitel Sefer Torah v'noisner l'Rosh HaKnesses. The Chazan HaKnesses, which they translate here in English as the attendant of the synagogue, which we would call nowadays the shamus. They explain that the Torah scroll was kept in a synagogue next to the temple courtyard. The attendant mentioned here took care of that synagogue. He took care of it, meaning all the things that had to be done, right? The Bartanur gets a little bit more specific. Basically, he says to take out and bring in things to change the coverings for different things. What a shamus would do. We would call a shamus would do these kinds of duties in the shul itself. This is what the Chazan HaKnesses was. So the Chazan HaKnesses would take the Sefer Torah from the shul, the Noisner l'Rosh HaKnesses, and he would give it to the head of the shul. Who's the head of the shul? President, right? No, not in this case. The head of the shul means here the Gabbai.
Okay.
What we call the Gabbai, the one who gives out the Elias, the one who decides who's going to daven, who's going to lead the davening. That is the Rosh HaKnesses. That's the head of the shul. Okay, so you have the Chazan HaKnesses handing it over to the Rosh HaKnesses. The Rosh HaKnesses Noisa l'Sagan. And the Rosh HaKnesses, the head of the shul, gave it to the Sagan. The Sagan was the deputy Kohen Gadol. What's a deputy Kohen Gadol? Deputy Kohen Gadol is, if the Kohen Gadol became unable to perform the service, the deputy would take his place. Now, we know for sure that they had somebody set up before Yom Kippur in case anything happened to him on Yom Kippur. Was there a deputy Kohen Gadol? I mean, the truth is, the only time you really, I shouldn't say that. Was this deputy Kohen Gadol in service all year round for something? I mean, as far as I know, that I can keep in mind, all year round, the Kohen Gadol doesn't have to do anything in the Beis Hamikdash, other than bring a certain carbon that he specifically brings every day. He doesn't have to light the menorah. He doesn't have to do the service of the Beis Hamikdash. If he wants to, he gets first crack. But so again, was there the Mishnah in Yoma does talk about a replacement in case something goes wrong with him for Yom Kippur. Was this person around the whole year round? I don't know. But this is Yom Kippur happening. This is happening on Yom Kippur. So this deputy Kohen Gadol is definitely there. V'hasagan noisna the Kohen Gadol, and the Sagan then gives the Sefer Torah to the Kohen Gadol. So you've got this whole system. And the reason it was done, says the Bartanura, was because it's a greater honor to the Kohen Gadol if more people are involved in something he's going to do. Okay? So now, so now the Sagan is giving it to the Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol oimed umakabel. The Kohen Gadol stands up to receive it, which means he could have been sitting until now, and therefore the Bartanura says he has to be sitting in the Ezras Nashim section, meaning not in the what we call the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, because there's only one person who can sit in the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, and that is a king from Malchus Beis David from the Davidic dynasty. No one else can sit in the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. So this is outside of the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. This is where this all took place. So it says he stands. Why does he stand? Because if a Sefer Torah is in motion, you got to stand. So he would stand, and he would take it. The Kairei Oimed, and when he read from the Torah, and he's going to read. And what position did he read? He read standing. The Kairei Achrei Mois Va'ach Be'asar. So what's he going to read? He's going to read from the section of the Torah that talk about Yom Kippur. So he reads Achrei Mois, which is what we read on the on Yom Kippur from the beginning of Parshas Achrei Mois. Talks about the service of Yom Kippur, and then Va'ach Be'asar, which literally means but on the 10th, which is in Parshas Emor, that also talks about Yom Kippur. So he's going to go ahead and he's going to read from both. Now, there's one more.
Two Sefer.
Nope. Same Sefer Torah.
Okay.
Only one. Okay, only one. You're touching on a good point, but right now, only one. It's only one. I'm just going to read to the end of the Mishnah, they'll explain it. The Goyla Lasatayra, he then rolls the Torah, closes it, Umanicha Becheikai, and he puts it next to his chest, against his chest, meaning he holds on to it. And he says, he makes an announcement. More than I'm about to read to you is written in here. And what we know in the book, and what we have in the book about Midbar about Yom Kippur, which is talking about the Musafin sacrifice Yom Kippur that are in Parshas Pinchas, Karei al Peh, that he reads by heart. Doesn't read it from a Sefer Torah, he reads it by heart. Now, what we see here is that the Kohen Gadol is reading on Yom Kippur from all the sections of the Torah that talk about Yom Kippur. Now, he has to go from Achrei Mois to Emor. Now, the thing is that the only time we allow you to read, now this is an explanation of the Mishnah. The only time we allow you to read from one Sefer Torah and to roll it to get to the next place is if it will not cause the tzibur, the congregation, to have to wait. That's how the halakha is brought down. And in this case, the tzibur is not going to have to wait when he rolls from Emor, from Achrei Mois to Emor. Why? First of all, it's short. And secondly, in the times of the Mishnah, any time they had a public reading of the Torah, it was each verse, each pasuk was followed by an Aramaic translation. That was called the Meturgaman, the translator. So there was always the reading of the pasuk and then the translation done in Aramaic. Well, when the final pasuk of Achrei Mois is being translated in Aramaic, he has enough time to roll it to get it to Emor. So therefore, go ahead and roll it and read from the next parsha. But now he has to roll from Emor to Pinchas. That's a lot of rolling. The tzibur, the congregation, have to be waiting. And we don't do it then. Okay, so he rolls it, he closes it. No more reading from the Sefer Torah. So Barry Steinberg just asked, how about two Sefer Torahs like we do? So apparently there was a point of time where they would not read from two Sefer Torahs. One person from two Sefer Torahs they wouldn't do. And the reason for that was because it might give the impression that the first scroll had been found invalid. If you read from a second one, people might come to say, oh, he's switching Torahs because the first one was no good. And we don't want people to think like that. So you're not going to have one person reading. meaning you're not going to basically have one reading, I guess, or the way it says, bro, you're not going to have one person reading, which in this case was the Kohen Gadol. He was reading everything. You're not going to have one person reading from 2 Sefer Torahs, which is not what we do. Maybe because of the fact that there are separate aliyahs, I'm not sure. Different people get different aliyahs, I'm not sure. But, all right. So now you were able to read the first 2 parts from 1 Sefer Torah. The third part, you can't roll it, and you can't take out a second one. So what do you have to do? You read it by heart. But at the same time, people are going to wonder, some people are going to wonder, why isn't he reading from the Torah? He has a Torah there. Why isn't he reading? They're not going to realize that he's not reading from it so as not to have to roll and make people wait. They're going to say, you know why he's not reading? Not kosher. Must have found something wrong with it. So therefore he makes this announcement. More than, or it's missing. Let's put it that way. The people might think that it's missing. So he says, more than what I read before you is written in here. Meaning there's nothing missing. There's nothing missing of what I'm doing next. It's just that I'm not doing it from the Sefer Torah.
But you're not allowed to do it, Hispanic.
For this purpose, you could. And therefore, that part of Yom Kippur that you read from Bamidbar, from Pinchas, he does that by heart. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll continue this next time. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.